Welcome to Dagon, inspired by H.P Lovecraft. It is a Lovecraftian horror game where you walk around. Walking simulator? Question mark? I think, maybe. Let's see what it's all about. Dagon is a faithful interactive adaptation of H.P Lovecraft's work, focused on story and atmosphere. You will not find difficult choices, action sequences, or inventory management here. And movement is limited to progressing through locations along with the plot. Very nice.
I'm writing this under an appreciable mental strain, since by tonight I shall be no more.
Look at that. I don't have to voice anything. They hired voice actors for the game. During the game, you will encounter interactive elements. Some of them will allow you to continue your journey. Others reveal interesting facts about the original short story, its historical background, and the author. Some of the trivia is hidden. In order to find these secrets, focus your eyes and look for the Elder sign. So it looks like a branch of some kind. It seems like, okay, yeah, right click. Right click and hold in order to focus. Yep, I can zoom in. Oh, so if I... Wow. Wow,
Penniless,
that
and at the end of my
slow.
supply of the drug.
That is super slow. Let's... No. Yes. Super, super slow. Okay.
Which alone makes life endurable. I can bear the torture no longer, and shall cast myself from this garret window into the squalid street below.
Fancy words, fancy words. Squalid. I don't know that I've ever heard that one. I've read it, haven't heard it.
Do not think from my slavery to morphine that I am a weakling or a degenerate. When you have read these hastily scrawled pages, you may guess, though never fully realize, why it is that I must have forgetfulness or death.
Or death. So dramatic. Okay.
It was in one of the most open and least frequented parts of the broad Pacific that the packet of which I was supercargo fell a victim to the German sea raider.
Nice, nice. Can I move? Is this just a point and click? I thought I was going to be able to move around. Should have read the
The
description
Great
better. I'm
War
not
was
good at
then
doing
at its
that.
very beginning, and the so
Oops.
that our vessel was made a legitimate prize, whilst we of her crew were treated with all the fairness and consideration due us as naval prisoners. So liberal, indeed, was the discipline of our captors, that 5 days after we were taken, I managed to escape alone in a small boat with water and provisions for a good length of time.
Nice, so I'm an escapee. Can I get in the boat? Nope. Oh. Point and click. Got it.
When I finally found myself adrift and free, I had but little idea of my surroundings.
Why can I only turn, like, it stops right here. Once I get here, it stops. Why can't I look directly behind me? Is there something there? Okay, what am I looking for? No? 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 Okay.
Never a competent navigator, I could only guess vaguely by the sun and stars that I was somewhat south of the equator. Of the longitude, I knew nothing, and no island or coastline was in sight.
Well, now what? Text is gone. Oh. The moon. Sail towards the
weather
moon.
kept fair, and for uncounted days I drifted aimlessly beneath the scorching sun, waiting either for some passing ship or to be cast on the shores of some habitable land.
I sure hope there's more gameplay than just listening to this guy talk. I'm not gonna lie.
But neither ship nor land appeared, and I began to despair in my solitude upon the heaving vastness
I can't
of
look down.
unbroken blue.
I think I'm going insane.
The change happened whilst I slept.
Oh. Build
Its
up music.
details I shall never know. For my slumber, though troubled and dream-infested, was continuous.
Oh man, I think I am going insane. Fun.
When at last I awoke, it was to discover myself half sucked into a slimy expanse of hellish black mire, which extended about me in monotonous undulations as far as I could see, and in which my boat lay grounded some distance away. Though one might well imagine that my first sensation would be of wonder at so prodigious and unexpected a transformation of scenery, I was in reality more horrified than astonished.
What are you looking at? He's been looking directly at me. I think he might be dead. He's eyeing
For
me
there
up.
was in the air, and in the rotting soil, a sinister quality which chilled me to the very core. The region was putrid with the carcasses of decaying fish, and of other, less describable things which I saw protruding from the nasty mud of the unending plain.
The squid, I'm assuming they're squid? He may have just said that. They're a lot smaller than I thought. It's because I was on the ground, so I assumed that they were, like, massive.
Perhaps I should not hope to convey in mere words the unutterable
Why is that one
hideousness
upside down?
that can dwell in absolute silence and barren immensity. There was nothing within hearing, and nothing in sight, save a vast reach of black slime. Yet the very completeness of the stillness and the homogeneity.
Whoops. I didn't mean to do
The
that.
sun was blazing down from a sky which seemed to me almost black in its cloudless cruelty, as though reflecting the inky marsh beneath my feet. As I crawled into the stranded boat, I realized that only one theory could explain my position.
Ugh, what is that? Why is it moving like that? That's disgusting.
Through some unprecedented volcanic upheaval, a portion of the ocean floor must have been thrown to the surface, exposing regions for which innumerable millions of years had lain hidden under unfathomable watery depths.
And that looks like a horseshoe crab. But like, different? A horseshoe crab covered in pimples.
So great
and
was
those-
the
one
extent
of
of
those
the new
things.
land which had
What are
risen
they called?
beneath me.
Looks like the
that I
Nautilus
could
from
not
Minecraft.
detect the faintest noise of the surging ocean, straining my ears as I might. Nor were there any seafowl to prey upon the dead things.
I mean, there can't be sea creatures if we're not in the sea anymore. You know what I mean? What am I supposed to look at? This guy. Oh, giant fish.
For several hours I sat thinking or brooding in the boat,
Can I move
which lay
now?
upon its side and afforded a slight shade as the sun moved across the heavens. As the day progressed, the ground lost some of its stickiness and seemed likely to dry sufficiently
Ew.
for traveling purposes in a short time. That night I slept but little, and the next day I made for myself a pack containing food and water, preparatory to an overland journey in search of the vanished sea and possible rescue. On the third morning, I found the soil dry enough to walk upon with ease.
Why are his tentacles like frozen out like that?
The odor of the
It
fish
looks
was
like
maddening,
rebar.
but I was too much concerned with graver things to mind so slight an evil, and set out boldly for an unknown goal.
Can I move now? No. Can't move still.
All day I forged steadily
What is
westward,
that?
guided by a faraway hummock which rose higher than any other elevation on the rolling desert.
That looks like something from like D&D. It kind of looks like a tree at first, but then it's got the little spikies, a little mouth, and then what I'm assuming is an eye of some kind. Oh, there's another one. Ugh. Ugh. I don't like it. Oh, there's a giant whale. Lots of spikies. It looks like a giant spider was here or something. Are there giant spiders in the ocean aside from crabs? There might be. I'm not really sure.
That night I encamped, and on the following day still travelled toward the hummock, though that object seemed scarcely nearer than when I had first espied it.
I don't remember that mountain being there. Maybe it was really small in the distance and I just didn't see it.
By the fourth
Good
evening,
possibility.
I attained the base of the mound, which turned out to be much higher than it had appeared from a distance.
That is how distance works.
An intervening valley setting it out in sharper relief from the general surface. Too weary to ascend, I slept.
Nice.
I know not why my dreams were so wild that night.
Probably because you're stranded in a different realm from where you were before. And you were in the water, and now you're not in the water. You're in, like,
the
a
waning
wasteland.
and fantastically gibbous moon had risen far above the eastern plain. I was awake in a cold perspiration, determined to sleep no more. Such visions as I had experienced were too much for me to endure again. And in the glow of the moon I saw how unwise I had been to travel by day. Without the glare of the parching sun, my journey would have cost me less energy. Indeed, I now felt quite able to perform the ascent which had deterred me at sunset. Picking up my pack, I started for the crest of the eminence.
What? Where am I supposed to click? Oh. I need to look down. I can't see anything.
The unbroken monotony of the rolling plain was a source of vague horror to me.
Source of vague horror to me.
Whose black recesses the moon had not yet soared high enough to illumine. I felt myself on the edge, peering over the rim into a fathomless chaos of eternal night.
Oh, is this like at the top of the mountain?
Through my terror ran curious reminiscences of Paradise Lost, and of Satan's hideous climb through the unfashioned realms of darkness.
So it seems very story-driven, like you're not necessarily playing a game, more so you're watching a story unfold.
As the moon climbed higher in the sky,
click through
I began to
options.
see that the slopes of the valley were not quite so perpendicular as I had imagined.
Can I jump off? Can I jump off, please? No, it's not gonna let me.
Ledges
Oh,
and
I do get to jump off.
of rock afforded fairly easy footholds for a descent.
Never mind.
Whilst after a drop of only a few hundred feet, the declivity became very gradual. Urged on by an impulse which I cannot definitely analyze, I scrambled with difficulty down the rocks and stood on the gentler slope
I see
beneath,
a square. Right there. Giant square, giant
gazing
building.
into the Stygian deeps, where no light had yet penetrated. All at once, my attention was captured by a vast and singular object on the opposite slope, which rose steeply about 100 yards ahead of me.
Is it glowing now, or is it reflecting the light from the moon?
An object that gleamed whitely in the newly bestowed rays of the ascending moon.
Okay, so from the moon. Got it. I should have just waited. Can I... What do I do?
That it was merely a gigantic piece of stone, I soon assured myself. But I was conscious of a distinct impression that its contour and position were not altogether the work of nature.
Oh yeah? What clued you into that? The 90 degrees or the perfectly straight up and down walls? That's totally based in nature.
Filled me with sensations I cannot express. For despite its enormous magnitude, and its position in an abyss which had yawned at the bottom of the sea since the world was young, I perceived beyond a doubt that the strange object was a well-shaped monolith. Whose massive bulk had known the workmanship and perhaps the worship of living and thinking creatures. Dazed and frightened, yet not without a certain thrill of the scientist's or archaeologist's delight, I examined my surroundings more closely. The moon, near the zenith shone weirdly and vividly above
What
the
is
towering
on it?
steeps that hemmed in the chasm.
Okay, so I just moved closer. There's water at the bottom, and there's some sort of art on it. And I also hear something happening. I
And
don't know what
revealed
it
the
is.
fact that a far-flung body of water flowed at the bottom, winding out of sight in both directions and almost lapping my feet as I stood on the slope. Across the chasm, the wavelets washed the base of the Cyclopean monolith, on whose surface I could now trace both inscriptions and crude sculptures. The writing was in a system of hieroglyphics unknown to me and unlike anything I'd ever seen in books, consisting for the most part of conventionalized aquatic symbols such as fishes, eels, octopi, crustaceans, mollusks, whales, and the like. Several characters obviously represented marine things which are unknown to the modern world, but whose decomposing forms I had observed on the ocean-risen plain. It was the pictorial carving, however, that did most to hold me spellbound.
Okay. Looks kind of like some Atlantis art or something. Ooh, okay. Storytelling methods. Dagon contains many themes and storytelling methods that Lovecraft developed in his later work, such as telling the story through carvings at the Mountains of the Madness, the Nameless City, journals and characters' notes, the Shadow Out of Time, the Haunter of the Dark, islands emerging from the ocean, the Call of Cthulhu, or fictional beings and deities based on real events and mythologies, Migo in the Whisperer in Darkness. He has some crazy name scheming. It's also considered the origin of popular Cthulhu mythos. Some of Lovecraft's other stories also include in a manner similar to Dagon, but let's skip the details in order to not spoil the ending. Yeah, I don't know why he names his books that way. You can read the discovered trivia immediately or go back to them later in the main menu. Turn off displaying trivia if you find that the feature distracts you from the story. This can be changed at any time in options. Okay.
Plainly visible across the intervening water, on account of their enormous size, were an array of bas-reliefs whose subjects would have excited the envy of a Doré. I think that these things were supposed to depict men, at least a certain sort of men, though the creatures were shown disporting like fishes in the waters of some marine grotto, or paying homage at some monolithic shrine which appeared to be under the waves as well. Of their faces and forms I dare not speak in detail, for the mere remembrance makes me grow faint. Grotesque beyond the imagination of a Poe or a Bulwer. They were damnably human in general outline, despite webbed hands and feet, shockingly wide and flabby lips.
I don't know if those look human. The only one that looks human is that one right there. This one looks like Cthulhu. That one looks like a Joker mask or something from like Japan. And that one looks like a CPS. CPS? SCP. There we go. I'm not dyslexic, you're dyslexic.
Glassy, bulging eyes, and other features less pleasant to recall. Curiously enough, they seem to have been chiseled badly out of proportion with their scenic background. For one of the creatures was shown in the act of killing a whale, represented as but little larger than himself. I remarked, as I say, their grotesqueness and strange size, but in a moment decided that they were merely the imaginary gods of some primitive fishing or seafaring tribe. Some tribe whose last descendant had perished eras before the first ancestor of the Piltdown or Neanderthal man was born. I stood musing whilst the moon cast queer reflections on the silent channel before me. Then, suddenly, I saw it.
Uh-oh. Suddenly saw what? The water's just moving. I don't know. Seems like something's gonna come up out of it, maybe? Cthulhu? Question mark?
With only a slight churning to mark its rise to the
Slight
surface.
churning? That's a
the
lot
thing
more than a
slid into
slight
view
churning.
above the dark waters. like a stupendous monster of nightmares to the monolith, about which it flung its gigantic scaly arms, the while it bowed its hideous head and gave vent to certain measured sounds. I think I went mad then. Of my frantic ascent of the sloping cliff, and of my delirious journey back to the stranded boat, I remember
Okay. That was not the kind of monster that I was expecting from that. I was expecting something much different.
I great deal and laughed oddly when I was unable to sing. I have indistinct recollections of a great storm sometime after I reached the boat. At any rate, I know that I heard pearls of thunder and other tones which nature utters only in her wildest moods.
You misspelled pearls. Also, I don't remember that particular octopus being there at the boat. Pretty sure it was just squids, and now there's an octopi.
When I came out of the shadows, I was in a San Francisco hospital.
Ah.
Brought thither by the captain of the American ship which had picked up my boat in mid-ocean. In my delirium, I had said much, but found that my words had been given scant attention. Of any land upheaval in the Pacific, my rescuers knew nothing, nor did I deem it necessary to insist upon a thing which I knew they could not believe. Once I sought out a celebrated ethnologist.
What's an ethnologist? Do you guys know what an ethnologist is? Because I don't.
And amused him with peculiar questions regarding the ancient Philistine legend of Dagon,
cool.
the fish god.
Yeah, that looks like something from the Bible. Okay. Dagon? Do you say Dagon or Dagon? I don't know. Was the main deity of the Philistines. Hey, I called it. Bible reference. Worshipped throughout the Middle East as the ancient god of fertility and crops. In Hebrew, the word Dagon sounds better, was a common noun for grain. The rulers of Akkad, Mesopotamia, chose him as the patron saint of their war conquest. He also appeared as the judge of the dead in an Assyrian poem and an underworld prisoner, warder in one of the Babylonian texts. He is often mistakenly taken for a fish god due to the wrong interpretation of his name, as in Hebrew the word dag means fish. So fish god? Because Gon would be God? I don't know. In H.P. Lovecraft's works, Dagon is an underwater deity ruling over the deep ones, a humanoid race with fish traits that reside in the oceans. He is worshipped by a secret cult called the Esoteric Order of Dagon. That is a sick name. That is a sick name for a cult. Okay. I would really like to move now. That would be much appreciated. I wish they had a little bit freer movement. I think it would be more
soon
fun.
Perceiving that he was hopelessly conventional, I did not press my inquiries.
Hopelessly conventional. Always have an open mind to everything. August Derleth and the Cthulhu Mythos. August Derleth was an American writer and anthologist. He also befriended Lovecraft and published many of his works through his company Arkham House. Although he greatly contributed to the popularization of the author's works after his death, he is surrounded by numerous controversies. Man, I am having the hardest time talking. One of his most questionable decisions involved introducing the good versus evil doctrine. Derleth was a devout Catholic to the Cthulhu mythos, which contrasted with Lovecraftian's view of the world and his approach to cosmic horror. As a result, the author's works are often misunderstood and misrepresented in today's culture. It is also worth noting that Lovecraft was never really interested in creating a mythology, and the term Cthulhu mythos was coined by Derleth after the author left the mortal plane. Ah, very nice. Okay, let's go check out the clock now. You know, now that I think about it, this kind of reminds me like an adult horror game of like the old Nancy Drew games or like the old Hardy Boy games. If you guys have ever played those, I used to love those when I was a kid. If you think I should do a Let's Play on it, comment it down below.
It is at night.
Oh, I'm back
especially
here?
when the moon is gibbous and waning, that I see the thing.
I was writing all of that. Got it, okay.
I tried morphine,
That's not good for you.
but the drug has given only transient surcease, and has drawn me into its clutches as a hopeless slave. So now, I am to end it all, having written a full account for the information or the contemptuous amusement of my fellow men.
So now I'm gonna kill myself? Seriously?
Often, I ask myself if it could not all have been a pure phantasm. A mere freak of fever as I lay sun-stricken and raving in the open boat after my escape from the German man-of-war. This I ask myself,
That is so
but ever
bright.
does there come before me a hideously vivid vision in reply. I cannot think of the deep sea without shuddering at the nameless things that may at this very moment be crawling and floundering on its slimy bed.
Ugh. The way it zoomed out freaks me out just a little bit, not gonna
Worshipping
lie.
their ancient stone idols and carving their own detestable likenesses on submarine obelisks.
Why is it
of
shaking?
water
Why is the
soaked
earth
granite.
shaking? No, 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 no.
I dream of a day when they may rise above the billows to drag down into their reeking talons the remnants of puny, war-exhausted mankind. Of a day when the land shall sink and the dark ocean shall ascend amidst universal pandemonium.
It seems like there is an underlying context in, I would say, the game, but it's not just the game, it's in H.P. Lovecraft's works of war or something along those lines. Although, now that I'm looking at these ships, those don't... Maybe they're ships? They kind of look like fish gills sticking up out of the water like that. This guy seems like a prophet
The end
of,
is near.
like, some sort of apocalyptic water people taking over. Yeah, like that. That's what I was talking about.
I hear a noise at the door, as of some immense slippery body lumbering against it. It shall not find me.
Unless it just opens the door.
God, that hand! The window! The window!
But I can't turn! I can't turn to the window! Oh, there we go. Splat. Splat, dead. Thank you for playing. We hope you enjoyed immersing yourself in our little pool of cosmic horror. We could appreciate it if you took a moment to rate Dagon and check out our other games and DLCs. Alright! That was a very good story, right? Because it takes you through and shows you using video game assets, kind of the visuals of H.P. Lovecraft's work. However, it really was not much of a game. There were no choices, there was nothing else. It was just reading and being read to and kind of a history thing. So if you guys like history, this is really good to do. Great story. If you guys like this kind of stuff, perfect. That this game will be amazing for you. However, it's not much of a game. There's not much gameplay in it. So if you like stories, if you like H.P. Lovecraft, come try it out. I got it off Steam. It's free. So go give the creator some love. And you should also give my channel some love. Go check out some of my other videos. I I do lots of other horror games and some other random games like Umu Musume. So, I'll see you guys in the next video.